Hello and welcome back to another episode of 060, and sorry for the delay in uploads. It's been hectic here the last couple of weeks, but I've got something pretty cool, something that I know a lot of you N54 owners are going to be interested in, and it's this wire and its sensor. Hopefully you all know, but the N54 factory DME does not actually log or monitor oil pressure. Now, Austin from Nexus Motorsport, he is the gentleman that came up with the B58 coil kits a couple of years ago. He's also one of the main programmers or coders, I hope I get this right, for MHD. So he's right there involved in the development of things that are going on for the next generation of N54 tuning. And he's come up with this oil pressure sensor kit, which I'll have the full details and links to it on his website just below. But basically what we're going to be able to do once we fit this kit is log oil pressure and see oil pressure through MHD. Now, this is a bit like the dipstick kits. You don't need it, but if you're running high power, if you're changing your oil frequently, if you're running different grades of oil and you want to see how that affects the oil pressure at different temperatures and different sort of conditions, you're actually going to have some more useful information to take away and tell all your friends about. So basically, I've had this for 2 weeks. I'm very sorry, Austin, that we haven't had a chance to fit it, but I wanted to fit it to something cool. My M54s are not accessible at the moment, and we've got JB's 1M. This car is a lovely vehicle, but it's gone through a few different iterations of turbos. He's had Viv 17Ts, which got a little bit melted. He's had brand new BMW OEM turbos, the Mitsubishi ones, and it's currently got a set of Mosselman, I think they're 15T turbos, and he's absolutely loving it. He has done track days, roll racing, and it's actually a nippy little thing. I took it for a bit of a drive before, but we will take it for a drive together once we've got this sensor working, and I'll show you what it sounds like, because it does sound really, really good. All right, guys, so to fit this, all we need to do, and I make it sound simple, is basically replace the sensor that's in the oil filter housing. What I'm going to do is just crack the oil filter housing lid and let the oil drain out of the housing, just so we're not going to drop a lot of oil down here. I'm going to remove all of JB's blingy carbon so it looks more like a normal M54, and I'll show you how we got to wire this sensor in. And then what we've got to do with MHD to get it to display on the gauge. And there's a few other things that we can play with as well. So you'll see me shortly once we're ready to wire the sensor in. So I hope you enjoyed that time lapse of me touching lots of very expensive carbon fiber. Anyway, we now have access to where the sensor is. Now, this is the original oil pressure switch. It is a single wire. So all it really does is, I guess it connects it to ground once it reaches a certain oil pressure, and if it's not at that oil pressure, you get the warning light on the dash. It is a very basic system, but I guess it tells you if you are completely out of oil pressure. That wire runs into the factory harness, into this little 3-piece here, so we can't really feed the new wire into the same location. It would be it would be impossible. So what we're going to do with this braided harness, we're going to run it down. I'm going to put it in the same little U position things that the O2 wires sit in, and actually the other part of that factory harness. I think it's all going to fit in there fine, and then we'll run it over to the DME box. Now, on the left-hand drive cars, you'll be running it over to that side, but essentially it's the same thing. Once you get in the DME box, we do need to wire it into the DME connector. Now, you will also have proper instructions from Nexus if you buy this kit properly, but just to confirm, we're connecting into the X6007 plug. Pin 2 is going to be the blue wire with the yellow stripe. Pin 3 will be the yellow wire with the white stripe, and pin 6 will be the black wire with the yellow stripe. If you've got any questions about how to connect into the DME, or if you're not sure, let me know, but I will probably use the iPhone to take some photos of it once I have it in there. And the reason we need to connect those wires in is because a pressure sensor has a continuous voltage and then a sensor signal. So it's got a positive, a ground, and then a sensor signal that comes back to the DME. It's pretty wild that Austin has managed to get a factory MSD80, MSD81 doing this. He's doing some cool stuff. In fact, there's 2 more really cool things he's going to announce soon, which is going to sort of change the game or the future of playing with these M54s in the aftermarket world. I'm really excited about those. But in the meantime, let me get this wired in. Yeah, I'll show you when it's all done, and then we've got to get onto the MHD side of it. Okay, so hopefully we can see we've got the wire ran down there in the factory O2 sensor channel, and we will tuck this just round there and into the sensor once we've got the sensor fitted. Yeah, it's basically just coming into the DME box, into that point there. We've just cut a slot in that grommet, and in fact that's how JB is doing his port injection. So let me position the GoPro around, we'll pull the connector out, and we'll get onto the wiring side. Okay, well hopefully you can see it all right. We've got the sensor wire just wired in, not wired in, but tucked into the DME box here, and I've tucked it underneath the plug so it can go into the connector. So I'll just flash up on the screen the image for the X6002 connector, but in this case it is the white one, and sorry, X6007 connector. It is the white one, and we need to connect the blue wire with a yellow stripe into pin 2. Now I know there's no way the GoPro is going to pick that up, that there is a 1 just here and a 13 just there. So pin 2 goes into this little slot here. Nice and easy, clipped in. Austin from Nexus is using OEM style pins, so they fit and they just feel like a perfect standard connector. Right, the next wire is pin 3, and it's the yellow wire with a white stripe. So that goes right next to it. Pin 3, there we go. And then the last one to go in is going into pin 6, and it's the black wire with the yellow stripe. So we're going to go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It goes into this hole here. Bam! So that is all wired in. We slide that back into the main connector block, clip it in, and we'll tuck that wire around. And I should have said, make sure you've disconnected your battery before you do this, just to avoid shorting anything out while you're poking around in here. And then that clips back on. Good to go. That all looks quite nice. Okay, so I'm just at the point where we're going to put the new sensor in. Now, just to confirm again, this is a pressure sensor, not a pressure switch. So it has voltage coming in and then a signal going out that lets you know the pressure it's reading. These are held into the oil filter housing. It is a 24mm, which is a big boy. And I seem to have lost my adjustable spanner. So I'm using one of Brock's. And we've got the rag underneath. I'm sure we're going to lose a little bit of oil. My original plan was to take the oil filter housing cap off and just let the oil drain out, but JB has a carbon fiber oil filter housing and he's had a few issues with sealing, so we're just going old school rag method in here. Please don't lose too much oil. In fact, hardly any come out. And I'll just show you quickly. Very similar in size. Switch, sensor. And it has got a nice O-ring on it. Austin did actually tell me what this sensor is out of. It is an OEM sensor from another model BMW, but just don't quote me on what it is because I can't remember. But it's not some random Chinese sensor. It is used in later model BMWs. Okay. And we're going to do that up to the torque wrench amount. Done. And we've got the wire fed. Still got the old sensor cap. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. It goes on that way. That's it. It is connected. It's all pretty easy. All right, guys, I'm going to put everything back together, and you'll see me inside.
I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, body so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on that tight frame. All game, no shame, baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine.
Now, I sort of got a bit ahead of myself there. When this is a retail product, this is just going to be a tick box in MHD, like when you select you've got downpipes or port injection, whatever. But at the moment, it's not quite at that point. So we have a custom map from Austin. Actually, what's happened, Ken has sent Austin this car's tune, and then Austin has modified it, or modified the part of the tune that does the oil pressure sensor. We have the custom map there.
No, it's not loading, sorry.
Okay, we're going to work that out. Basically, when you buy the oil pressure switch, or sorry, oil pressure sensor from Nexus Motorsport, you're going to get a code which will activate the part of MHD that you need to activate, much like adding flex fuel, that sort of thing. And it'll make a lot more sense. But what we're doing now is going to be different to the retail version. So we'll get it set up, and then we'll see how it works in the car. We'll see you guys shortly. All right, guys, so we've got it loaded on to MHD. Now, it's a bit weird. James, or JB, normally logs everything with his iPhone here, but because this is all beta software, we're using an Android tablet here, and I've got that problem where the camera can't really see the screen. I might just swap over to the phone shortly, but just so you know what's happened, we've loaded the beta version of the MHD software that has the oil pressure built into it. But when you go and do this for your own car, it'll just be a tick box in the normal MHD preferences, and that's it. It's that easy. Now, I have actually started the car up and we're getting an oil pressure reading, but Austin has actually programmed in a few different warnings because it's hard. If you're on a track and you're going around a corner and you lose oil pressure, you're not going to notice. You're not going to be watching the oil pressure gauge. You're going to be watching out the window to make sure you don't crash. So he's programmed a few different types of errors, and that's what I'm going to show you now. In fact, I'll show you that before I show you the MHD side. So if we start the car up, and he's basically set it up so that we'll get the warnings at low safe numbers. So we're going to get a warning on the dash cluster and a warning on the iDrive. So we should see the first warning at 2,000, maybe 1,000 RPM. So not yet. Okay, so there, and we got oil pressure, drive moderately. So that's the first level of the oil pressure warning, and this is adjustable, within the MHD map, but he's gonna have it set up so that it just sort of suits everybody. If you're getting that warning, check your oil pressure, have a look at MHD, see what's going on. You haven't blown your engine up yet, but it's a little bit lower than it's expected to be. And then when you're actually on it a little bit more and you're in dangerous territory, you'll see this warning. Okay, so you get critical error, you get full screen takeover. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can, but we've got a big error on the iDrive, and when you're actually in those conditions, it pulls power. It gives you an artificial RPM limit. I'll stop revving it, but I'll basically bring it up over 2,500, and it's set up so that if we're over 2,500 for 2 seconds, it'll throw the critical error, and it introduces a rev limiter. Here we go. So I just kept accelerating then, and it's pulled the RPM back. I did not adjust the throttle, it did that automatically. So yeah, not only do you get the ability to log these errors, he's built in fail-safe. So if you're hammering it around a track, something's bad, or there could be potential damage to the engine, it'll pull it back, and it might just save you from putting a rod out the block, and you might get away with only doing rod bearings maybe. Something like that. So monitoring oil pressure is always a bit iffy, because generally if you've got no oil pressure, you've already done the damage, but Austin wanted to set this up so that it's going to try and save some of the main components in the engine. Might not save everything, you might save everything, but he set it up so that it will protect itself if it can. I hope I explained that well. This is a really good thing. Really, really well thought out, Austin. All right, let me show you the MHD settings. Okay, so I'll just show you what you need to do on MHD. Now you will get a code from Nxm Motorsport that allows you to have a license to do this within MHD, but all you basically do, you go options, just a normal flash, whether you're doing a custom map or even one of the off-the-shelf maps, and then we have the Nxm Motorsport oil pressure sensor installed. You turn that on, and that basically calibrates the map, or anybody's map, to do it. And actually you can see here, engine low rev limiter for critical oil pressure. That was the red error that I was just showing you, and you can turn that on, and then you're gonna get the critical errors, and it will actually pull power, introduce an RPM limit. Now I'm not going to flash it because we've already flashed it, but let's go to the monitoring section. In fact, I'm going to turn the car off so you guys don't see this. Everybody have a guess below what they think an N54 idles at its oil pressure, or what its oil pressure is at when it's idling. Now this car has, it's either a Shell or a Motul, but it's a 5-weight 40 oil, so it's not the thickest oil out there. Comment below before you see the next thing. What do you think it's going to sit there idling at? Because I was quite surprised. All right, so let's start it up. Need to put my foot on the clutch. Okay, so we got a burst of oil pressure, and it idles there at 57, basically 50 to 60 psi at idle. That's way higher. Oil's not at temp, so we'll see how it goes. But as I bring the RPMs up, watch it rise. These things make some oil pressure. 100 psi. That's a sub 3,000 RPM. Ah, the rev limiter's kicked in. We're still up around there. I think that's pretty good. You know, as I said before, a lot of the time, by the time you've got a warning for an oil pressure issue, it's too late, but you're going to be able to keep an eye on oil pressure. You're going to be able to know where your car should be. And if it's 10 PSI down from where it normally is, you might need to change your oil. You might need to look into something. It's just going to give you a bit of a warning before you blow up your motor. If you're thrashing your M54, this is a no-brainer to me. The kit is currently, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, $169 US. Now that includes the license, the sensor, everything to get it done, and I think that's crazy. It is an introductory price. It's not going to be that price forever. So if you're interested, I'll put a link to Nexus Motorsport. Get it ordered this year, 2022, while it's on sale. That's mega. That's really cool. I love it. I miss my cars. I miss my cars. All right, guys, I'm going to end it off there. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Austin, for sending this to me. I'm a little bit jealous I can't use it in my car at the moment, but JB is going to make use of it because he does track this car. He's actually got Musselman turbos on it. I can't remember if I mentioned at the start of the video, but that is really where this car needed to be. He had 17Ts on it. They're a little bit iffy, but he's got the Musselman 15Ts. It feels like a factory turbo car, completely stock. It just has more power, and it is pretty rapid. It must be around that 550 horsepower, and he thrashes it on track. He really does enjoy it. It's all working well, and now he's got a little bit more critical data. Thank you all for watching. I really like this. Thank you to all the 0 to 60 Buy Me a Coffee members and the YouTube members. You guys really help me out. Sorry for the lack of videos lately. If you're in the G chat, there is a specific promo code for you guys to get it even less in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in getting this and you're a 0 to 60 G member, make sure you jump in the chat. There is a real special price. Oh, it's all going well. Guys, I know I keep saying it. We've got so much cool stuff planned here at Simply Tuning and Leasing Engineering. JB has had a little bit of a preview to what's coming next year. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. We've just got to get a few more things worked out in the workshop before we can start making this cool stuff happen. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think of the oil pressure sensor. And let me know if you guessed right with where they sit at idle. Oil temp's coming up a little bit now and you can see, but it's still around 50 PSI. That's good. Bit of RPM. Straight up to 100. It's good. All right, guys. Thank you all. I'm nattering. I miss making videos. I'm coming back, though. There's more coming. All right, guys. Thank you. All right, go. That's one good sounding twin turbo. Thank you again. All right.
No worries, mate.
Drive safe.